what they were meant to be paid. I was a lecturer for 11 years. I'm still a lecturer within the medical school in Sierra Leone, and I've had my fair share of strikes while I was within the university. And again, the same reason is because what was due to us in terms of financial resources was not forthcoming from the government. So when I assumed office, together with my team, we thought about why are we doing things the same way and expecting different results. So that was how the Technical and Higher Education Fund, which I know is not it's not something strange, it's tried and tested in other countries, but it was something new for Sierra Leone, and we see that as an innovative and sustainable way of financing both Technical and Higher Education Fund activities. So we're in the process now of identifying sources of income to diversify the income stream, to further complement what the government is investing in education. And training levies is one such thing that I have learned using industry partners, and so that's one thing we will explore when we go back. And talking to the other relevant ministries, so the Ministry of Mining in particular, I was struck by the presentation from Zambia and the model that they have used. What can we learn from that and introduce in Sierra Leone? We also are open to exploring matching grants to in private sector contribution, because as I said yesterday, it's all hands on deck. We cannot afford to work in silos. The fourth point of reflection for me is how we should leverage data and digital transformation. So the sessions on labor market intelligence and digital skilling, these are directly linked to some of the reforms that we have within the Ministry of Technical and Higher Education. And I mentioned the education management system that will give us real-time data in terms of enrollment, completion, but also labor market outcomes. It will also help us for gender tracking. I know I talk a lot about gender. One thing that we're introducing in Sierra Leone, or we're mindful of, is that we have certain sectors that I like to call that are testosterone heavy, so they're male dominated. And these are usually centered around science, technology, engineering, agriculture, and mathematics, STEAM. And what we're introducing is granting aid for female students within those sectors, for us to train the critical mass of young women that can potentially take up leadership positions in the future. But then I always say to my team that I will not be excited by having 100 students and young female students being given the grant. What I'll be excited about is that of 100 that were given the grant, 100 graduate at the end of their study. So we can use the ENS also to track admissions, but also retention. And if retention is dwindling down, then we need to see how can we use the information and research to try and work that, address that. And I talked about using emerging technology. AI is here to stay. We have no choice but to embrace AI. We have to demystify AI, and the more we talk about it, the more we'll get our learners and our trainers to understand that AI is a tool that will help them to work efficiently, effectively, and so on and so forth. So our commitment in Sierra Leone, in closing, it's clear. We want to build upon the gains that we have made within that space, largely with the support from the World Bank, from the SDF project that completed in 2023, I believe it was, or 2024 thereabout. And we want to build upon those gains. We want to protect that investment that has gone into that space. We want to transform the TVET sector, so we are undertaking reforms accordingly to modernize TVET. We're coming up with a policy framework, passing and the enabling legislation, and also working to ensure that we have our private industry partners integral to all the plans that we have. So again, one thing to add to that, when we got the presentation yesterday afternoon from the gains made by East Street, there's a lot we can learn from that. So back to the point I made in the beginning, that a lot is within the continent. I've also started the conversation with my ambassador here, my high commissioner here. How do we have a bilateral relationship with Kenya to help us to transform TVET in Sierra Leone? And as I said, we're also looking to learn from the bank and the lessons learned from within the continent, how to introduce resource-based financing that would link training to jobs, because that's why we're here, jobs. And also how we can learn from the regional centers of excellence that we've had over the last few days, and how can we adapt that in the context of Sierra Leone in key growth sectors And this will be anchored in Sierra Leone, but will be connected to Africa, and we in turn will contribute to that continental and global knowledge. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Minister. Thank you for those reflections. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to invite Minister from the Ministry of Technology.